kind of right there with Roby at 2.5 shots per game. And so I kind of wish, it seems like he's not super able to create.
And he's had some pretty nice finishes, though.
Yeah, I just feel like even when you do have nice finishes, that doesn't always mean that you can consistently get to the rim. Like, Ty Webster can always do that, but then he just kind of, like, struggled in his first few years. I mean, I think he can get it eventually, but he definitely hasn't been, like, dominating games early on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just he just really seems to fit in, and when he comes in, it's not like you're worried or anything, I guess. Like, you don't feel like a true freshman's coming in is, like, going to possibly screw it up or turn it over a bunch of times and stuff. Yeah. Like, he just plays with the team, basically.
He's a pretty good ball handler and stuff, and definitely will probably get a few minutes just because of his defense. Mm-hmm. He's obviously been... I mean, it's hard to say anybody's been, like, the elite defender because the other team can't score at all. But hopefully against some better teams, he'll be able to show that off and, like, lock guys down when we need him to. So we have a huge game coming up against a real opponent. If we blow this team out, we might actually be number one in the rankings. Well, Duke beat Kentucky by a lot, but...
Yeah, we're not. Well, when do they redo rankings per like week or whatever? Do they?
Yeah, like on Mondays.
Mondays, yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends. Like, it's the computerized rankings go but like KenPom goes every day. We check every day.
Well, like the rankings that like the actual official rankings.
Yeah, like AP and stuff. I mean, technically, the official rankings would be the tournament committee, and they just started releasing the Sweet 16, I guess, which is really dumb because then it's only releasing the teams that like are definitely going to be in the tournament, and they release them a little early, but they don't. You kind of don't get anything until the very end.
But yeah, I feel like if we beat Seton Hall, I feel like we should be top 20.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. So I can't remember exactly what their like KenPom is, and it's hard to tell. They've only played one game. They beat Wagner or something by like
Seton Hall
30 or 40. Yeah, so I'm gonna read just something that was on the board. So the Hall made the NCAA tournament and won a game last year. They lost 3 contributing starters from that team along with some transfers. Quincy McKnight is a transfer from Sacred Heart, where he was a volume scorer, more of a threat in the paint/drive. Anthony Nelson is the point guard of the future and will play in his 6'4". He's a freshman and he will play. Miles Powell is the star of the team. He's a 6'2" junior shooting guard/combo guard. The team's currently only reliable outside shooter. That's interesting. So Miles Cale will be a threat from the outside. He's 6'6", so hasn't been real aggressive with his shot. None of the posts shoot well from threes. They have a 6'10" Syracuse transfer named Torrin Thompson, who averaged 9 points and a block per game as a freshman at Syracuse. He fouls quite a bit. And after some of those guys, they really do not have a lot of depth. There's one guy who's apparently 7'2", and maybe 2 other guards, but we might expect a 7-man rotation, and that was from H.H. Dimes on the board. Just did some good research. So what are you thinking about a team like that? How do we match up?
I feel like we should be pretty good. I mean, obviously the past 2 teams have been terrible just in general, but I mean, we've been really good on 3-point defense, and if they only have one shooter, that shouldn't be an issue. They don't have like a super imposing big man, so Roby should be able to handle him well.
Yeah.
It's just sounding like an easy win, but
yeah, I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell how good they are. Some people, they're kind of a young team, so some people are saying that maybe we can just fluster them.
My only concern is they're like, you said 6'4", 6'5" for their point guard.
Yeah.
I mean, just like if Glenn's going to be able to guard him.
Well, they have the 6'2", there's a 6'2" guy who's like a shooting guard.
Well, yeah, but that's who Thomas Allen will have to guard.
Well, I mean, if they're playing together. But...
Well, they've been starting together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried if the guy's like 6'4". Jake, you're cracking your toes in front of the mic. Okay, so there was some discussion on like people getting a little worried that Roby could foul because of that Torrin Thompson, who's their big guy. What do you think? Who do you think plays first, Tanner or Brady, if Roby gets in foul trouble, or if he just needs a breather?
Tanner, because especially if he's, I feel like we need him for defense. And that's why Roby had to go to the bench. Then I think definitely Tanner.
Yeah, so he's played Brady's played a little more than Tanner, but I think we saw that Brady or Tanner came off the bench first, from what we can remember.
Yeah.
Somebody compared him to the 7'2" guy to Taco Fall last year, if you remember that UCF game where we couldn't do anything. That was one of the worst probably the worst game last year that we had.
That's terrible.
Except for maybe Illinois at the end of the year or something on the road. But man, that was just absolutely terrible. I think we scored like in the 50s or 40s. But he won't be that good. I don't think you guys have to worry too much about that. But don't get us wrong, this team, they somehow on paper sound like they're not very good, but they probably are a top 25 team. And so let's move in to making our HTCC predictions for the game against Seton Hall. Jake, what do you have the score as?
My submitted prediction is 77-70 for the Huskers.
Yeah, so one of the things that I always try to look at is just you can predict the difference in score by kind of like how good the teams are, but it's always important to see like how many points the teams score, which it's not that easy because we've been blowing teams out. But for reference, Seton Hall beat Wagner, as we call it in Nebraska, Wagner. They beat them by 40 points, 89-49, and we've won our games. We've scored like 102 and not 102, 100, more than 100, and like 87. But I think the defense will definitely just be totally different, especially in the first real game of the season. So I have us at winning 75-69 in this game. And I guess it's not HTCC. I have no idea where I'm getting that from. It's HHCC.
Yes.
Yeah, Husker Hoops Central Challenge. So, Jake, what are some things, after watching the first two games, that you'll be looking for the third game and on into the rest of the season?
I think continuing to put up shots from deep is an important thing, just to make defenses have to actually come guard us out there and pose that as a threat. And then also keeping our pace up and not playing super slow.
Yeah, I looked it up
last year and it was terrible.
I think we were at 70. Well, I had to average them in my head. We were at like 78 and 75 possessions per game, which put us at around like 120th out of 350 in the nation. So that's a pretty quick pace, or I mean, not super fast, but I'm not sure how the blowing out the other team kind of affected that. But I'd hope that we just run a lot. We have a small team this year. When you have Roby at the center, we should be pushing out into transition as quickly as possible and really just trying to beat teams down the court. I think that was something that people said we might need to do against Seton Hall, just play transition defense, and I thought we should be able to match up well against that and be able to get back.
Yeah.
So what else are you looking at?
Well, we kind of talked about it earlier, but shooting either layups or threes, I think that's kind of like the new, like the most effective way to play basketball, and kind of like what the NBA, but also like I think college ball needs to and is pushing towards.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it, but Glenn oftentimes tries to take some of those mid-range
Well, that was like
twos.
his thing like 2 years ago.
And he was really good at it.
From there.
But when I think about it, like JJ Redick, he's obviously a much better shooter than Glenn Watson, but he oftentimes like comes off screens, and it's just so much easier to get shots in the mid-range than it is to get shots on threes, especially because you can just like curl around screens instead of just going straight out on them, because you don't set screens like past the three-point line, you set them on it. So you can kind of curl around the guy, and it makes it easier. But it looks like to me that Glenn is trying to shoot a lot of threes this year, and overall the team is. And those just... So there's something called effective field goal percentage, where it's like taking into account your threes. So like one shot isn't just... If you make a three, it's worth like 1.5 makes instead of 1. And that goes way up when you start shooting threes, obviously, because they're just like worth more, and free throws and stuff too.
And it just makes it hard on the defense, so they can't completely pack it in and then just watch us pass it around the outside and not shoot.
Yeah, so many times even three-point shooting misses can just allow you to open up your offense. So another thing that I'll be watching for is how maybe we can start to build our offense around Roby. That's definitely something that we didn't see in the first 2 games. But there are a few ways like the pick and roll. But maybe, I don't know, has he shown an ability to post up in past? I don't really remember it too much.
I mean, he's never been like...
He's just never been
back
the focal
to the basket
point
kind
of
guy.
The offense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder, like, when Miles says you need to be selfish, we have kind of said we don't know if he's done the greatest job of, like, making that happen. But I think Roby is a player who doesn't really do it all on his own. Like, he's not taking the ball up the floor. He's not
he's not, like, pull up or, like, off the dribble into the lane. I mean, he definitely can, but
basically the only way that he does that is he, like, gets a lane and he just runs and, like, tries to dunk it over somebody. Yeah. So I think, especially in the pick and roll, like, Miles needs to put him in situations where there are plays for him. Either that or, like, getting backdoor cuts, something like that. Because he's not going to just all of a sudden take over a game.
I mean, he's not going to start from the three-point line, just completely dribble in and, like, go through 3 guys. I mean, he just doesn't... He can handle the ball well for, like, a 6'8" guy, but, I mean, he's not, like, going to make a crossover or something, really, to break someone down. So if he can get a pick and roll and just, like, set a screen and roll and get a pass and just take one dribble or just go straight up with it, I think that's the most effective way, and we haven't done that, so...
Yeah, and I think Palmer, too, can just, like, that's why I kind of said I thought he would end up being the most important player, just because I didn't think Roby would, like, be necessarily put in position to, like, really be, like, and even maybe, like, he's more of a role player on an NBA team compared to, like, Palmer, who's a 3-level scorer.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, but putting him and Palmer in a pick and roll would really be helpful, because that's the best 2 players on our team offensively, probably. And Palmer could, like, one thing that we saw is Glenn, they play Glenn in the pick and roll a lot. And when he goes up there, the front guy, or Roby's man, hedges, and then he just can't pass it over him. Or he has to make, like, a bounce pass or something, and it just doesn't get there in time. But with Palmer, he'd be able to just be tall enough to jump up, throw it over the guy, and get a dunk for Roby. So, finally, we've obviously had a great defensive start. But what are some of the things that you'll be kind of watching for on defense as we progress into playing teams that can score and don't have people who are only shorter than 6'7"?
Yeah, definitely 3-point defense, because that's what we've really struggled with in the past.
Yeah, I can't remember. Were we bad at that last year? I thought we were okay at it.
Or was it 2 years ago we were terrible?
I think 2 years ago we were really bad. Yeah, 2 years ago
we were terrible at it. So, yeah, keeping that up, I guess, and then also I think our like team defense as a whole is